Hey guys, it's Josh here, and I just wanted to make a video if you're considering buying one of these Skidoo 4-stroke snowmobiles, 1200. If you've seen any of my other videos, I've owned this snowmobile for about a year now. I bought it last January, and me being a mechanic, I've went through everything on the snowmobile, and not knowing anything about these new snowmobiles, there was a lot of stuff that I could have looked out for when I bought the snowmobile if I'd talked to more people. I gave it my usual look over, everything looked well, but I realized that I still love the sled, but there's a lot of problems that they have, and they're nothing major, but they're all stuff that if you're going to look at a snowmobile, or one of these 1200s specifically, they've been making them since 2009, it's 2018 now, so so it's going to be a 10-year stretch, but this is specifically going to be for the XR body style, and mainly it's going to be for the 1200 motor. So I just wanted to go over the sled, and if you're going to look at one, this is all stuff that you want to check out when you're going to buy one, just to save yourself money in the long run, and just what to ask them, and what to look for, so you don't end up with a bummed sled when you go to buy one, because there's a lot of people that are good at polishing them up, and you think it's a good sled, and you get it home and turns out you got a lot of little issues with it. Alright, so first off, we're going to start with clutching. So opening our side panel here, specifically if you're looking at buying one of these XR bodies, I would recommend a 2012 or newer, because from 2012 and older, they did not have the R-Motion suspension, and trust me, if you're buying one of these sleds for resale value and everything, just for your ride, you do want the R-Motion suspension. It's a great suspension. And starting off with the clutching here, like I said, the 2012 year was the last year for the TRA drive clutch, and it's not the clutch you want. So when you're going, you want something that looks like this. This is called the eDrive 2 clutch, and it's designed for the 1200s. The TRAs were not designed for a 4-stroke motor. So this is what you want. The 2012 years did have the TRA clutches on them. This one had been upgraded, so it was all right to buy then, or you would have to upgrade it if your snowmobile does not have it. You would have to upgrade it yourself, most likely within a short period of time, but most of these sleds, now that they're older, they have been upgraded because people had issues and they upgrade them. So you want this, or you're going to find a really common model of clutch that's going to be on them is a PB80. It's a Power Block 80. Really good clutch. My dad has it on his snowmobile. It's a little bit more grabby. The eDrive is much more smooth, but they last a lot longer. There's a lot less moving parts than in the eDrive, and that's something that you want. So I think that's enough for the clutching area. So basically, if you're going to buy one of these sleds and it's a 2012, it won't have one of these clutches, but the 2013 and newer have these clutches, so that's what I would recommend buying. Next we'll move on to the suspension. Alright, so for suspension, some things you're going to want to look at right away is your shocks. So you're going to know if your shocks are done. This isn't going to rebound. You can see how far this is up. It is sitting on a wheel now, so it's hard to tell. But if you go to look at the sled and this block is sitting way back there, it's hard to compress it right because of the wheel right now. That means that your rear shock, if it's an X package, your X packages, you can rebuild the suspension. We'll get into that after on the packages, but you're gonna know that you're gonna be spending a couple $100 to get your shocks redone if your suspension is sitting back like that. So other things to check are obviously your wheels. You're probably gonna have to do bearings, and it depends if it's been serviced or not, but just think of it that you're gonna have to do them. When you get up here, there's some bushings back here. I'll take the camera off of the tripod here and show you. So underneath your suspension here in the middle, you'll see these the hexagonal bushing there.
those are a common thing to go, so check if those have play when you're looking at it. Not a big issue, but it's going to be a few bucks. You can ask the guy if he stayed on top of it or not, because it can ruin that whole arm if they wear through, obviously. But that's another story there. So that those are one thing to look at. Another thing is this cross member here. As you can see, I have a piece of just rusty metal on it because I had to fix it in the middle of last year. But this bushing here must be loose, so it just butts into the side of your rail here, and then you tighten this bolt. There's one on each side. So when I got mine, this is moving back and forth, and this rail could move. So I had to actually put a nut or a spacer in between the same width as the rail, then make this bigger, this piece. It's ugly, I know, but it served the purpose in the middle of last year when I was working on it. And then put this on. So watch that this isn't ovaled out. That's something to look for. And that's pretty much it for underneath the suspension under here. Sometimes these arms, this arm that goes from the back here to the front, right here, mine had some custom fabbed things in it. They originally made them out of aluminum, and the upgrade was to steel, so sometimes they bend and guys don't upgrade them. So you'll want to make sure that these arms right here that run parallel with your center shock are straight and intact, and hopefully they're upgraded to metal already. And when we get to our front suspension here, our A-arms, you're going to want these. Skidoo has plastic bushings in here from factory. They have these oil light bushings that you're going to get from Royals or something. They're about 50 bucks for all of them. So it's nice if they're all done, because you got to pull all this crap apart to replace them. So if they're done already, that's sweet, because these bushings are going to last a long time. So just check if your A-arms have a bunch of play in them. Your typical ball joint for wear and stuff. Tie rods for wear. Everything of this was tight for me. It's been all redone though. Your ski bushings for wear, mine are nice and tight. But that's all regular maintenance for all the snowmobiles, and not specifically to the 1200. So I'll get more onto the specific 1200 stuff that you're going to want to watch for. Alright, so we'll get on to the engine and things that you want to watch for when you're buying the 1200. So looking underneath your hood here, I'll get some light in there. You have an oil cooler in here. I'll just get the camera in here, give me a second. Anyways, so back in here, right there is your oil cooler with that hose going to it. You can kind of see the cooler there, so it's hidden back in there pretty well. So you want to look, you see the steering column there, you want to look right underneath there, which is, this one has been replaced, but they have common hairline cracks and they'll leak right underneath there. Right in this area you'll see oil all over there, and that's from your oil cooler leaking. So that's what you want to watch. And from up top here, the head gaskets were, or not the head gaskets, the valve covers were common to leak. Mine leaked a little bit. I just went around and retorqued the bolt there, that rusty bolt. I went around and retorqued all those down, and it solved that. On some years, the bolts were actually too long on the valve covers, and they wouldn't allow it to tighten down fully, so guys would cut off the bolts. I was lucky enough that I could tighten it down, and that fixed it. It wasn't a bad leak by any means. So that's just something to look at. So when you're over here and when you're in Buddy's driveway looking at the snowmobile, you're gonna pop the hood, take a look underneath, look under there to see if you see oil anywhere or coolant. They'll leak coolant down, so check that. If you're underneath, you can see it too. You'd see it in the back of your heat exchanger here. It'll run out the back of your belly pan there, and all your oil will come out of there. So, or oil or coolant will come out of there. Also, they had an issue with the oil, or the oil tanks on them, since these are a dry sump motor.
your oil tank is back in behind your clutches here. It's right there, that black plastic you see in there. That's your oil tank. It runs all the way up to your dipstick, which is over right there is your dipstick. That oil tank can leak around the O-rings. They had a recall on them. Mine, the O-rings were actually leaking. I found that out after. It was leaking a little bit of oil, and me being picky, I'd hate for one of those to blow out after. The oil tanks actually will warp sometimes, so I decided to replace the oil tank on mine, and I decided to make this video because these motors have to come completely out of the snowmobile to get to that oil tank. So that was a couple days of work for me in the garage here. I do have another video on that if you want to see what it actually took. So 1200 engine removal, it's on my channel. So yeah, that's your main one. The oil cooler at the front, not a big deal. You can replace that in a couple hours, but it's still something to look for when you're going to buy one, and that's why I wanted to make this video. But if that oil tank's leaking out the back, that's a big job. I think Skidoo charges 8 or 9 hours to change one, because there is a lot of labor. So that's about it for the motor. I know it seems long, I've talked a lot, but I want to be very thorough, and if you're serious about buying one of these sleds, you won't mind watching this whole video and having me explain everything, because this is what I've found was wrong with my snowmobile. None of it's major at all, but it's just something to help you out. Alright, so next off here we're going to talk about the reverse. So on these 1200s, they're not like a two-stroke where you can slow them down and flip the timing so the motor runs backwards. You can't do that with your valves. So you have to have a chain case that has reverse in it. So if you get the MXZ models, the Renegade, all that stuff, they got mechanical reverse, which you simply pull it like that and it'll go back in there. So they had issues. So if you're there looking at a snowmobile and you can't get it to go into reverse, my dad's, mine, you can't get them to go into reverse when they're running. I don't know what's up in the chain case. There's a fix for it. I know I haven't looked into it, but there's something that goes wrong in there, and it doesn't allow you to shift into reverse when it's running. There must be something, anyways, I'm not sure what it is. But so if you have it running and you got to go into reverse, you just hit the kill switch and you can pull it into reverse, just like that. Start it back up, you're in reverse, it'll let you start it in reverse, and you go backwards, you're good to go. Some of these had an electronic reverse on the GSXs. I think the Grand Tourings, they're famous for messing up because you can't get them into reverse, and I don't know if I don't have any experience with them, but ideally the mechanic that I talked to when I bought this snowmobile, he said make sure you get the mechanical reverse. That's what you want in the long run. And if you're wondering why when you're there you can't get into reverse when you're looking at the snowmobile, just put a bit of tension on here with your finger, hit the kill switch, and this will just slide right back in, and then start the sled back up, go in reverse, and you don't have to shut it off to flip it back in. It'll go back in, but there's just something in there that's not allowing us to shift it nicely when the motor has that bit of tension on the chain case. I'm just going to move on to one more issue that I had on my sled. When I bought this sled, my snow flap was move all over the place. This is moved too. So coming under here, we got, as you can see, this cracked here. They put these, had a rivet here but nothing up here. I put these 2 rivets in and that held it stiff again. But you can see this cracked across here, and same with the other side over here, it cracked too. So I thought it was just mine because there was a bigger guy driving the snowmobile and the suspension wasn't tuned up. He never had the shocks rebuilt and it was pushed down, and I thought it was from the snow flap dragging and it broke it, which is probably right. But this other snowmobile we got here, it hasn't been repaired yet. It doesn't need to be yet, but you can see underneath it, this is what it looks like factory. It actually has some cracks in the corner right there. starting a little bit, and right in that corner there too, there's a little bit of a crack starting right along the corner here. But I think that'll be fine. We'll come to that if it ever gets any worse, but that's something to look at, see if that's broken off, because you're going to have to fix it. As you can see, mine with a couple pieces of aluminum on it, riveted, was it was already fixed. I may have got it welded, but those pieces were already in there when I bought it. Alright guys, so that's about it for the video. I want to go over everything, and I know, like I said before, it's a little bit lengthy and stuff, but I want it to be thorough, and I wanted to explain basically a buyer's guide for the 1200s and what to watch out for. So if you're buying the 09, 10, 11, 12, they still got the older SC5 suspension, and I would really recommend you into buying one with our motion suspension, because it is good. So getting into the packages, they offered I believe they didn't have a sport, they called it the TNT, the Adrenaline, and the X package. So the X package is basically comes with these fancy graphics. It comes with rebuildable shocks with clickers on them. You have the option to get this quick adjust here that basically, instead of flipping your blocks underneath your suspension to stiffen up your torsion springs, you can crank on this. The one on the other side is just a clicker for your rear shock, so it your suspension dampening, it makes it dampen and come back stiffer. So starting off with the TNT, it's your base model. You're going to get your base gauge package, base graphics. Your suspension's not going to have all the adjusts. The Adrenaline's a bit nicer, a bit better shocks, different colors of graphics and stuff, bit better. But the king of all for resale, I find after 10 years or even 15 years, when the older Revs and stuff are selling, you always get more money for an X package, because those shocks are rebuildable, has nicer graphics that everybody wants. You get a better gauge package that you can flip through a bunch more stuff, your top speed, all that stuff. What else? I think that's pretty much it for the X package. But if you get the GSX or anything, you're going to have that electronic reverse, and ideally you want the manual reverse, but it's not the end of the world. I don't have any experience from it. Like I said earlier, it's just a known fact that I've read online that I thankfully had the manual reverse, and that's what I wanted. Alright, so for mileage concerns about when buying these, I did a lot of research when I bought mine. You want to buy one, let's say, if you're going to buy one, you're going to pay a lot of money for something that has under 6,000 K on it. So I want to say you want to buy one in the 1 to 8,000 K range. You're going to be pretty good and have a few years of good riding. But the thing is, if you buy it at, say, like 12,000 kilometers on it, or 13, 14 maybe, seems to be the number guys are saying, you'll find that the guy before you has put a lot of money into it. He's replaced those bushings in the suspension. He's replaced the bushings in the A-arms. He's put new ball joints in it. He's got new carbide runners on it. He's got a new track on it by then. So it's all stuff that's not going to make a huge amount of difference in price when you're selling the snowmobile, but it's a lot of money that the previous owner has put in it. As far as motors, they're like anything. Sure, they do have bad motors sometimes. This snowmobile personally has 19,000 on it. When I bought it at around 17,000 on it, and just like I said before, all the bushings have been replaced. Everything was good to go for me. I had to do the oil cooler was replaced, no leaks there. The only leak I had was on the oil tank on the back there. I had to replace that. Otherwise, I've had nothing but good luck with it. The clutch was replaced already. Yeah, so for mileage, I really wouldn't be concerned on buying one with 15 to 20,000 on it. Even higher than that, I've seen them online for sale with original motors in them with 30 to 35,000 on them online. And I honestly, when it's getting up there, I'd like to know who drove it. But that's just me. I'd like to know who drove it and how it was taken care of, if the oil change was done yearly, all that jazz. It's just nice to know. This one was an original owner sled, and same with the other one. Really, really nice to know that it hasn't went through 3 young kids or anything. I've heard stories of guys in Quebec that have over 60,000 kilometers on their original motors. So it's all they're good motors, and that all shows that they're good motors and they last a long time. But it's just everything else around the motor that goes, all your bushings and ball joints that you're going to spend money on. So that's what you want to watch for. Alright, yeah, so I think that's about everything. We're just going to talk about the pros of the 4-stroke. You only have to run 87 octane in it, which is fantastic. You're not stopping to put oil in it. I know all the sleds are good on oil now on the 2-strokes. You have to change it once a year. I never buy genuine oils. I buy a genuine oil for my Skidoo because it was $60 or so for a jug of it. And I only have to change it once a year. Your filter, you do your oil change and filter in the spring, and then in the fall you're ready to go. Your chain case oil is typical for any snowmobile, but this thing's amazing on fuel, and not having to put oil in throughout the winter is really nice. The quietness of the 4-stroke is really nice for going across lakes. Like, I can hear birds chirping when I'm going across lakes through bush and stuff. I can hear birds chirping. It's amazing how quiet they are. And I usually like stuff loud, like my truck and stuff, and nice throaty sound. But on this thing, I really like the quietness of it. So, anyways, I think I've covered everything. I've tried to cover everything and just go over everything on the snowmobile here. And I really hope this helps you buy a snowmobile and what to look at. If you have any questions about anything, please comment and I'll get right back to you. And I'd be glad to help you if you're wanting to look at a snowmobile. I'll try and answer all your questions, or any untouched area I didn't go over. I'd be happy to help you. So this is basically a buyer's guide for a Skidoo 1200 and what to look for if you're considering buying one. So I hope this video helped, and please give me a rate and a subscribe if you liked it. Thanks, guys.